What's up, D-Gens? Coming back with another video. Unfortunately, it was a losing week last week, but it was an 0-1 week, so not a huge loss. Kind of the point of taking it slow after a couple of bad weeks. Even after one winning week, I didn't want to just jump into it, face first. And it worked out kind of well because the stuff that I just kind of dabbled in didn't do too great either. So, fair warning up front, it has not been a great year. That being said, one of the things I like to listen to is just, history and whatever. And obviously one of the most famous sayings, right, is if you're doing something over and over and again and expecting different results, that's insanity. So we keep trying to change it up. We're not just going back to the same thing over and over and over again. If you haven't noticed, we started off with kind of just sides, then totals, then like first half, second half, just little stuff like that, just little like nuances. Went from teasers to absolutely no teasers. So just different ways of attacking the board and trying to see maybe where we have some success. Now, in doing that though, with gambling, it's really difficult because you have to know when you were just plain out wrong and then when the game flow just didn't go your way, right? Because gambling is one of those things where like you can practice and practice and practice and do really, really good and know what you're talking about, but the game is just, it's still football, right? It's still 11 people going 11 different ways at one time against 11 other people, and anything can happen on any given play. So, that being said, let me talk about the loss from last week, why I think that maybe like the reasoning was right on it, even though we didn't get the win on it. So it was over 49 for the Chargers-Falcons game. I'll let that play out on the community page. I believe it was like last Tuesday. And it immediately shot up. So it went from 49 to 49.5 to 50, and I believe it even touched like 50.5 for just a second, and then it started coming back down. So at the time of kickoff, it was 49.5. So we still had some line value on it, which is always good. If you don't already know this, usually that's the way that you can tell that you are, or should be, a consistent winner in gambling, right? In the NFL or sports arena, is just getting that closing line value. It means that you're kind of jumping on the lines before the rest of the market or community is out there getting it. So all good stuff, but then again, obviously we don't get the win. So what happened in that game? So a couple things. One, if you didn't actually watch it, the final score ended up being 20-17, and that score is much lower than it really should have been, and kind of misleading because a couple of things really went against us pretty hard throughout that game. One of them was a turnover in the red zone by the Falcons. And, I apologize, I forget who it is. It might have been Algier, but they're running up the middle, and they get tackled, and I swear to God, the dude just rips it out of his hand. I freaking blanking on his name right now. Somebody out there help me out in the comments. But the defender, and he's like a big name too. Damn it, why can't I remember? Anyways, they ripped the ball from him, and this is like on the, I believe, like the 18-yard line, around the 20-yard line, somewhere in there, like just inside the red zone. And so what should have been eventual points, right, whether a touchdown, a field goal, whatever, probably a touchdown, honestly, doesn't happen because the Chargers get the ball and they're going back the other way. So that's one, scoring opportunity lost. Also, though, later on in the game, we have back-to-back turnovers, and actually I think this may have been just a couple plays later in the next quarter, I apologize, but you have the Falcons going back down. They're, I believe, on like the 40-yard line of the Chargers side of the field, and Mariota throws a pick, right? Chargers bring it back. They actually return it to, like, I believe, the 40-yard line of the Falcons. So they take the field, again, with what should be pretty prime scoring opportunity, right? If they can just move the ball like 5 to 10 yards or at least in field goal range, get something out of this. And neither defense was really that awesome. Neither defense was really applying that much pressure. But, so that's to say that it could have been and probably should have been a touchdown at that. But, again, the Chargers turned the ball right the hell back over. They turned it back over like on their own 35 or on the Falcons 35. So then we have the Falcons going back the other way. So it's a lot of plays, a lot of time coming off the clock, in what should have been in both positions scoring opportunity, just completely wasted because nobody did anything with it, and we have all this time coming off the clock where they're just basically kind of hovering around the 50-yard line. So those are two more things that happened. Other than that, you had a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of just dropped passes over and over and over again. It was infuriating. As somebody who has the over to watch that, Kyle Pitts had at least 2 or 3 drops. I mean, like just directly in his hand drops. One of them was a long seam route where it's maybe not a touchdown, but it's at least like a 35, 40-yard play. Like it puts them in scoring position, and he just drops it. I mean, it hits him right in the hands, dropped. Another one where I don't want to blame him entirely, but sorta, yeah, because Mariota puts the ball where only Pitts can get it, and it is maybe like 3 inches away from his hand, and this big ass dude cannot go out and get it. Like, lay out for it, dude. If he catches that ball, he's either on the goal line or in the end zone. If he had to dive for it to catch it, it's a touchdown. I mean, it just goes right over his fingers, and I guess he's trying, but it doesn't look like he's like really going all out for this thing. So that just pissed me off. A lot of this was specifically on Pitts because he dropped ball after ball after ball, or he didn't run the right route. There was at least 2 times in that game where him and Mariota just were not on the same page, and he's open. He's got like 1 to 3 steps on his defender, and he's running like a slant route, and Mariota's throwing the out route. So just annoying as shit. But also we have a missed field goal. So I believe it was the 4th quarter at that point. We have the Falcons, I believe it was. Yeah, Koo misses the field goal. So that's another scoring opportunity missed. Cordell Patterson, he actually runs in a touchdown that gets called back for a block in the back, I believe, or holding or something like that. So you have one touchdown that's just completely taken off the board because some stupid penalty. And that really should have been a touchdown, especially for your fantasy owners out there who have Patterson. Obviously, he had 2 touchdowns anyways, but could have been more. Also, there was one part, and this is not, I mean, it wasn't wrong. It was the correct call. There's one portion, though, where Eckler, it looks like he gets tackled, but from one view, it doesn't look like anything touches the ground, like he's on top of the defender. He runs in, gets the touchdown, and then on review, they call it back. And, I mean, that sucks, but it was the right call, so whatever. But just to go over, there's at least one actual touchdown that gets called off the board because of the flag. But there's at least one more touchdown in there somewhere that gets lost because of somebody not catching the ball, a drop, whatever it is. So let's just say you get those 2 touchdowns. That right there puts us up to 51 and gets us the cover. So, it is what it is. It happens. But like I said, this is not to just kind of pat myself on the back and like make me feel better. This is just to show that I do believe we were on the right side of that one. It just didn't go the way that we were, hoping and expecting it to. That shit happens. That's usually how we get these losses. It's just stuff doesn't go our way. So let's get back at it this week, and we're actually going to be taking another Falcons game. It's the Falcons-Panthers. We're actually going to be taking the over in this one. Now, if you're looking at the screen right now, I am on xbet.ag. Now, earlier in the week, they had this at 43. It's actually where I grabbed it at, and I apologize, guys. It takes some time to make these videos and to really sit down and do everything. So I apologize because you missed out on that point of value already. But at 43, definitely has a lot of value. 43 has become a key number in totals this year at least, and really even going back to last year. So the over 43 is where I'm at. I'm not saying you should buy the full point down. I'm just saying it may be worth a look depending on how much juice they're going to charge you to do it. I personally don't really like to go over like minus 135. So take a look at it. I think 44 is also still going to be okay. A couple things on this one. So Falcons-Panthers just played 2 weeks ago. If you followed us for a while, you know that when teams have a rematch within 2 weeks, that's actually the best time to get on the team that lost the first matchup. So when we do this, or when we see this, and I'll pull this out here for just a second. Oh, no, I thought I was going to. So this is just kind of going off of rematches, and this is over the last like 2 to 3 years. So when teams meet each other in a rematch 2 weeks after their first game, the winner of the first game only wins 26% of the time, and they do cover the spread about 30% of the time. So that would have us leaning the Panthers, and if I'm completely honest with you, I did put just a couple pennies on the Panthers plus the 3, mainly for that reason. But also because I think you're buying the Panthers at their absolute lowest. So if you're looking at this like a stock market, there's so much turmoil going on with the Panthers. They're sitting down P.J. Walker. Sam Darnold is coming off the IR. Baker Mayfield replaced Walker in the second half last week. all sorts of shit. Obviously, they lost McCaffrey, and DJ Moore. They're trying to make him a thing, and I kind of like all of that, only because it wasn't working. The first couple weeks of the season obviously wasn't working, so moving these guys around, changing the coaching up, all that kind of stuff can only go one way, right? That being said, it does make it harder to game plan against the Panthers. So the Falcons, on one hand, have the game tape and the game notes from 2 weeks ago, and maybe how they want to attack or defend against the Panthers offense. The only problem is the Panthers coaching staff, while I believe it was still the same guys 2 weeks ago, the personnel is being a little bit changed, the schematics are probably being a little changed, and the quarterback is almost definitely going to be changed. So there's a lot of stuff you really can't account for, which to me gives the Panthers kind of a nod in that just like game preparation part of the handicap. Now the Falcons, on the other hand, they typically do have the better skill players, so obviously it would not be a surprise to have them win and cover this game. It is a divisional game though, so the Panthers on defense have not really changed too much, haven't really moved a lot of pieces around there. I do think the Panthers defense is going to be pretty much what we saw about 2 weeks ago against this Falcons team, and they're probably going to get diced up just like they did 2 weeks ago against this Falcons team. Now that is the one thing that I think the Falcons do game plan sufficiently for. They know what worked in their last game. They know what they want to do again, and they know what adjustments they maybe need to make when going up against that defense. And the same thing for Carolina. Now, usually the reason we see the rematch go to the loser of the first game is because the loser makes more adjustments. They're the one changing more. They're the one studying more of what didn't work. Where the winner, in this case the Falcons, what are they really going to go back and critique? I mean, yes, there's certain things that I'm sure they want to do better, but there's not a whole lot of like, this is specifically why we lost the game. It's a little bit harder to critique when you ended up getting the win. Now that game did go to overtime. Obviously I don't think this one's going to. It's kind of unlikely, but because we have both teams here that know each other's defenses and know where they want to attack when they have the ball, I think you're going to see this game go over. Now, aside from that, you also have a DVOA issue here, which is Carolina and Atlanta. As far as the rush DVOA, Atlanta is 22, which not good. Obviously, it's below average. Carolina's 23, so just behind them. Also, again, not good. If you look at the offensive ratings, as far as the just team overall, right? Atlanta is number 8 in offense. Carolina's number 31. So Atlanta should be able to put up some points. Carolina, like I said, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But what's giving me some hope in this one is that when you look at their success rate, specifically at running the ball, we have Atlanta number 5 and Carolina number 10, and this is success rate, again, with the rush. So Atlanta is 0.015 expected points added when they're running the ball, but the success rate of about 45.2. That's actually good for number 5 in the league at expected points added per rush. So typically teams are losing points when they run the ball. Atlanta is actually gaining points, so that's one mark for us. And for the over, Carolina not too far behind. Now they are negative, but it's a 0.011, so just a little to the negative side. Their rush success is at 41, so obviously a lower success rate, but they are top 10 as far as just expected points when running the ball. So again, keeping in mind that both teams can run the ball effectively, and both defenses here are below 20th as far as stopping the run is concerned, I think we're going to see some points here. Even if it is running the ball, you're going to see some success for both of these teams. Now, when it comes to actually running the ball, how many times are they passing? How many times are they running? Well, if we look at this here, Atlanta is passing the ball 42.29%. Over the last 3 games, it's 41%. Carolina, 58% is how often they're passing, 52% in the last 3 games. So I like to just kind of look at the last 3 games, so 52 and 41, and that's predominantly because if you go past that, who knows what the hell's going on, who's changed, what the game flow was, all that kind of stuff. So we just know that recently both of these teams have been, effectively running more often than not, especially Atlanta. They're only passing 41%, which means that they're running about 59%. Carolina is running about 48% of the time. So pretty run-heavy teams considering the era that we're living in right now. So we have teams that want to run a lot, that have effective runners. If you remember back into the last time these two teams played, the success that D'Onta Foreman had against Atlanta, I don't see why he wouldn't do that again. But you have these two teams that want to run, have effective runners, they have efficiency when they do run the ball, and two defenses that can't stop the run. On top of that, we also have Mariota, who can run himself. Now, with all of that being said, going back into looking at what the last time, what happened last time, you see that Huntley, Algier both had decent days, right? As far as how effective they were on the ground. Mariota put another 40 yards on the ground. Mariota put 3 touchdowns up in the air. All of that being said, one thing you do notice here is Cordell Patterson obviously did not play back then. He's going to be playing in this game. So you have another game-changing weapon. Whether he's old or not, the guy's effective. And I do see him making a difference in this game, whether it's on the ground or receiving or whatever he's going to be doing, just the way that they use him. I think Atlanta is going to find a way to get him the ball. And he should be a little bit healthier than he was last week. On top of that, he should be getting worked in a little bit more. Maybe his stamina is a little bit higher because last week his reps were pretty limited. So I do think you're going to see Atlanta come out even more aggressive than they were in this last game. As far as the Panthers are concerned, again, new quarterback. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't think you can get much worse than P.J. Walker, though. I don't hate the guy. He's just not an NFL caliber quarterback. I don't even know if he should really be a backup at this point. But that being said, D'Onta Foreman, again, obviously had a really good game last time, put in 3 touchdowns. DJ Moore had an awesome game as well. Terrace Marshall, who is also a really good receiver, he's just been kind of overlooked for a long time. He was amazing when he played at LSU. I think you could see him getting more and more involved in this offense. So while the Falcons are probably going to try and stop Foreman and put a lot of guys in the box to try and stop this guy, I think you're going to see Moore and Marshall be open for whatever passes come their way. So hopefully it is either Baker or Darnold that can maybe actually get these guys the ball. But either way, I think you're going to have two offenses doing whatever they want in a divisional matchup where we expect to see a lot of points. And while the Falcons are obviously in first in that position, I think you could see these two teams really battling out, just, as you see with divisional games. So that's why I like the over. Like I said, I also took the Panthers plus the 3 points. I'm not saying you should follow that one. The official pick is over 43. I do like the over 44. It's kind of a minor key number. So if you can get it at the 44, I would. But I definitely would say to do that sooner than later because I do think that's going to be going up as well by the time we actually get to kickoff, which is the Thursday night game. Lastly, I just want to throw one more play out there, and this is going to be the Cowboys and the Packers. So Cowboys -5. Cowboys are another very run-heavy team. If we come back to this page here, Cowboys over the last 3 weeks have been running about, let's just call it 48% of the time. So again, pretty run-heavy. If you look at the offensive stats, Dallas is number 10 offensively, number 1 defensively. Of course, their bread and butter is just going to be relying on the defense. Green Bay, number 15 and 18. And this offensive DVOA, I do think they have just kind of, I don't want to say gotten lucky, but they've played some teams that really helped them out with that offensive DVOA. If you look at their schedule, well, they're number 10, so it's not too terrible. But I don't know how great that is going to look at the end of the year. Anyways, Green Bay struggles to stop the run, and that was the point of all this. Dallas has the offensive advantage, the defensive advantage, and they should be looking to run the ball on a Green Bay defense who has not proven anything against the ground game. Their rush DVOA defensively is number 31. They're second to last at stopping the run. Just a terrible, terrible run defense, a terrible front seven against Cowboys' offensive line that's better than I expected. I wouldn't say they're like a top 3 team, but they are average to above average. So I do see Pollard or Zeke or whoever it is, I think it's going to be Pollard probably this week, getting a lot of work, hopefully busting off a couple of explosive plays. Now, Dallas is off a bye week, so hopefully they've been preparing for this game. I usually don't like taking teams off a bye week. I know that sounds kind of backwards, but a couple things in this one. So usually if they're coming off the bye week and they're staying at home is when we see issues with the teams coming off a bye week. A lot of people in the, quote-unquote gambling industry think it's because guys don't really get their mindset right. For the week that they're off, they're dealing with family and chores, taking kids to school, whatever the hell they got to do, and the week comes where they're, going to work, quote-unquote, and it doesn't really change. wife at home, kids at home, whatever, they're still in like, hey, dad's at home mode, and you're probably still like, I'm still kind of on my week off, I'm going through the walkthroughs and whatnot. Usually when teams travel and they're not at home, they can get away from that stuff. We see a better result. We see guys who are more focused, more playing on the game, whatever. And that's hard to handicap, obviously. That's just strictly kind of putting the numbers that we have into a narrative. So that's all it is, but that's what we think it is at this point. Now, that being said, also remember Mike McCarthy got fired by this Packers team. The Packers team, and from what I'm hearing, and it's not just him, the coaches in general take it pretty personal, but he did not like the way it just happened. He took it really personal, especially with Aaron Rodgers kind of giving him the boot out of there. So now he's going back to Green Bay to play the team that fired him with the number one defense in the NFL and a pretty solid offense with a pretty solid running game. I do think Mike McCarthy goes in there with the expectation to make this Packers team pay. Now, on top of that, you also have the Cowboys that lost to the Packers back in that playoff game, back with the Des Cotty game. Now, those players aren't really there anymore, but this is being kind of billed as a rivalry, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the Cowboys offices, right, and in the practices and all that kind of stuff, they're billing it up as this big rivalry. So I do think the Cowboys come in here with pretty much every advantage, offensively, defensively, running game, coaching wise. Not to say Mike McCarthy's a better coach, but to say he has the more like motivation here. Packers look like they're almost ready to kind of give into it, right? And just let whatever happens. Dobbs is hurt. They have some guys in their secondary hurt. They have a whole bunch of like Christian Watson still hurt. Randall Cobb is out. So a lot of stuff has happened to these guys, and I don't think they're really prepared to come in here and beat the Cowboys. So Cowboys, give me Cowboys minus a touchdown even. I'm really liking that. So Cowboys -5, I'm on that one as well. So those are the two plays for the week, guys. Hopefully you follow me. Actually, hopefully you fade me if I keep having these bad weeks. So I've just given you the two plays to go against or to not play at least. But either way, have a good day. Thank you again for watching, and y'all keep good luck.